Welcome to Unpacked, an open-minded podcast taking a clinical, not political approach to helping pet parents around the world. I'm Sailor Jerri, certified dog trainer, virtual dog training revolutionary, owner of Tulsa Pack Athletics, and creator of the open-minded approach.
And I'm Mattison, her friend, certified dog trainer and behavior consultant. Together, we have nearly 3 decades of experience in behavioral dog training.
We've been working with real dogs and the humans who love them to create solutions to problematic behaviors that feel too big for them to tackle on their own. In this episode, Mattison and I are chatting with one of the open-minded approach interns who donated a daily 4-week one-on-one training program to help one of our guests kickstart their training journey.
If you haven't yet been introduced to the case in previous episodes, feel free to go back and listen to those first, or jump right in. Settle in with us and unpack. Hello, friends, and welcome back to another Training Touchbase episode. This one is going to be a little bit different because instead of pulling an intern to work with Ruth and Corn, I worked with them for 4 weeks. And so this is going to be an opportunity for Ruth to update Jerri and all of you on how her and Corn are doing, and a chance for Jerri to poke and prod at the training that we did and figure out what the approach was and get to know it from a little bit of an objective perspective. So I am so excited, Ruth, to hear how things have been going for you and Corn. I know things have been moving at light speed for you.
Oh yeah, I think that things have been moving, but I fondly look back on our time together and our training, and I feel like anytime I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed or maybe we're having not regression or anything, but when there are these moments where it feels hard for me, I just remember the things that we worked on and I lean on those even more. And having that experience, being able to hold on to those feelings throughout the training has brought me to a place where I can do more with Corn and just be able to kind of keep up with the work that you were doing with us and expanding on that completely. Being able to take Corn outside of our safety zones in the neighborhood, really focusing and dedicating time to getting outside of the neighborhood with him like we had talked about, and giving him opportunities to just be a dog and not have to be so fearful. But then also with expanding our ability to go outside of our comfort zones, really thinking about the tools that feel helpful for me and for him in those moments. And so I know I was talking to you about how I've now started muzzling Corn a lot more on our walks, and that even has just expanded his ability to socialize with his dog friends, make a lot of new dog acquaintances. I wouldn't say he's a dog selective dog. The dogs that we know, I've been able to give him so much more freedom and trust around those dogs. And it's been really cool. It's been a really cool experience, doing the training and maybe not seeing in the moment where it was going, but after, because it's been a few months now. So after seeing how it's impacted his overall well-being, he feels different. And I think that's just because I also feel different. The confidence has changed. And I think that same thing with him too. There definitely is a lot more trust with each other, which has been amazing.
I love that.
Yeah, I always want people to feel more confident. Even more, I'm more worried about that than I am about their dogs feeling confident right then, because it's just, that's a process and a journey that you go through with your dog. But I think when we work with people, it's something that we hope that they feel some relief and an increase in understanding and confidence. That should happen actually pretty quickly. It doesn't mean that you're going out clad in red sequins and a boa and you're out there. It doesn't mean that, but I guess you could if you wanted. Yeah.
But let's talk about what that actually meant for you, Ruth. And because I'm having this flashback moment to our first episode, Jerri, when you were I got a bone to pick with you, Toronto.
Yeah.
I got a bone to pick with you.
Yeah. When you were talking, Ruth, I started thinking about, I'm going to get to talk about Toronto. I'm so excited.
And one of the first things that I noticed was how in other areas, there are ways to escape some of those triggers. That was literally not going to be possible. That was not going to be possible for Ruth and Corn to avoid off-leash dog encounters. Period. So, speaking of Ruth's confidence, Ruth, what is one of the first things we did? Tell her.
Oh my gosh. Like, I think just we started just like working. Well, when we were working on that off leash dog protocol, Madison,
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
that was crazy because I also had to like step outside of my own comfort zone and go to the places where Corn was like getting approached by off leash dogs. And I had to practice that. And that felt so, the first few times I was like, this feels wild. I look insane. Somebody's going to call somebody on me and we're going to have a situation.
Talking to some invisible dogs out here.
Oh, it looked, and I had the carabiner on the thing.
And they're like, why are you doing that?
Yeah. And then I even did that like when I knew there were off leash dogs too. And that also felt really weird. But then the more I did it, I was like, okay, my body knows how I feel in this moment. And I felt so powerful. And I was like, you know what? When I started to do it with Corn, I was like, it was crazy because the second I would bring Corn into it, I was like, oh, I feel scared. But then I was like, you know what? No, we're doing it and there's no dogs around.
And one of the big things,
scared about.
One of the big things, even beyond physically practicing how to advocate for space, both in comfortable environments and then difficult environments for you, Ruth, but then it was actually desensitizing Corn to the language and the energy of the situation, of the energy that comes off of us potentially, of us needing to really be strong and be powerful and what that can do for our dogs. We practiced that in the apartment over and over again, of having him disengage and just trust that she had it in that moment dozens of times before we needed it. We needed it every day, but we practiced it in the moments we didn't need it so we could use it when we did.
And I think that was a breakthrough moment because I think that like I didn't even think to practice it inside first. I immediately was like, let's bring it outside. But then practicing it inside, it was so much easier to see how he reacted to my tone of voice, to the words I was using. But then to then see him de-escalate inside so much quicker. And I was like, oh man, like we can't bring this outside yet. Like it's a little too much. Like we have to start inside, start in the laneway, then go to the field and then expand it even further. And then also that opened up a lot of thinking about the way that like thinking about my energy when I'm saying certain things to him, how maybe why I feel, just checking myself. Cause there were times where I'm like, oh, I'm scared. Why am I why? Nothing's wrong. Everything's fine. It was that instant.
Well, that's because that happened before. And so your response, your automatic default response, you can't help it, is to go into really what we're describing is, and a lot of people struggle with this with their dogs, is I think really the symptoms of PTSD, where you have this traumatic thing happens or a series of traumatic things happens with your dog, whether your dog instigated it or another dog, whatever it is. And that doesn't get resolved. And we don't work through that with somebody. We just think, oh my God, like there's a lot of stuff we don't work through, not just dog related, but and so just for people that are listening, if you don't know this, if you have a traumatic experience and you don't process that and work through it in a way that allows you to release some of that and then integrate the lesson in what you learned, that will turn into something else. And it will often turn into, and that is also what's happening to our dogs. When we're not shown that we can have a different response or make a different choice, and then that's not reinforced, like we want to show our dogs, hey, you can do this instead of that, but that's not enough. We have to really heavily reinforce it. And by doing that, we create these new patterns and these new defaults in ourselves and in our dogs. So if you're listening and you're struggling with what you feel is pretty much PTSD from situations with your dog, talk to somebody about it. Talk to somebody about it. I do free consults. Madison's here to talk to. Reach out to somebody, because a lot of times it's just like it was with Ruth. It's just a misunderstanding of what's going on. And once you understand it, it's, oh, wow, I can let that go. I didn't know what I was looking at. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know any better, and neither did my dog. And then you can move on.
Those are cycles, though. We get stuck in them until we can identify them. And once we can identify them, we can step out of them into a different cycle or a different path.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I think that one of the first videos I sent you, it was crazy to look. I used to videotape myself in Corn all the time, but I would never like catch those moments. And I remember one of the first videos I sent you, and I looked back on it and I was like, I just froze.
Froze
I did,
for a solid like 45 seconds of reacting.
and in the moment, it feels so fast. But looking back, I'm like, oh
Yes.
my God, I did nothing. I
Mm-hmm.
just let him do that behavior. And I had been letting him do that so much. And it was like, I identified in that moment, like, okay, I'm in freeze mode.
Yep.
I need to get out of freeze mode because
Mm-hmm.
that is not helpful for either of us.
Let's talk about that because there's a lot of people that they freeze. They don't know what to do and they freeze. A
I'm a
lot of,
flight. What about you, Jerry? Are you
yes, so
fight or are you
I'm
flight?
fight. I'm a fighter.
I'm
I'm a
flight.
stress.
I'm getting the heck out of here. There's going to be a Madison shaped hole in the wall so fast.
She Kool-Aid man herself through the
Out
wall.
of here. Right.
Yeah.
And
So
Jerry's a fighter and Ruth's freezing.
yeah.
So
So you've
all
got, and
types
then we've
exist.
got fawners.
Appeasers.
We've
Yep.
got fawners,
Oh,
appeasers.
Yep.
Yeah. So all of them are listening. We've got
And
you all
honestly,
here.
let's recognize that these things have kept us safe in our lives, but it
Yeah.
doesn't mean we need to continue to fall back onto them just
Yeah.
because they have helped us in the past. We can acknowledge that and say, okay, that's a pattern, but it doesn't have to always be the way that I respond.
Yeah.
mm-hmm.
I think the underlying thing that is always true about us, without serious lifelong personal development, is something that Denise Fenzi talks about. And that's whether you're a stress up or a stress down person. And you may
Mm.
not always be stress up in every situation. When I get really overwhelmed, an example of that would be when my son was born and he was in the hospital. I just shut down. I can't talk. I'm total stressed down because I cannot cope with the moment as it is unless I internalize and think. Now, in a different situation like what we were talking about, I'm a stress up. I can feel it happening. When someone makes me upset, I can feel myself getting, where the next person may freeze and shut down, or they may appease, or they may feel the need to just avoid and leave the room, like Madison was talking about. So it's important to identify how you are and how your dog is. Denise used to have a fantastic episode on Finzi Food for Thought about stress up versus stress down, and it has since disappeared into the nether. I don't know where it went. She can't figure it out. I can't figure it out. I said, you don't understand, Denise. I was giving everybody that episode. I was telling the world about that episode because I thought it was so profound.
Side note for us, maybe we should ask her if she would come on here and talk about it.
Ooh, that's so good. That's so good. I like that. Yeah, but okay, so let's go back to, yes, we should. Let's go back to, you said I would freeze in the moment. I watched myself just standing there doing nothing. So what was the change for you? So did Madison bring it to your attention? Hey, you're just standing there. You can't just stand there and
Literally.
wave a
I
wand.
did
Yes,
literally say,
I
girl,
say
you
it
can't just
too.
stand there.
Yeah, I'm like, you just stood there for 4 seconds staring. What was that
Yeah.
about? And then every time the person's, oh my God, I see what you're talking about. The power of virtual training, there's a lot of things really good about it, but you cannot deny what you see yourself do on a video. You can't blame it
Oof.
on somebody else. You can't say it was the lighting. You can't say it was this, that, or the other. It's you, boo. It's you standing there for 45 seconds.
I don't have a virtual trainer, and I film me and Remy all the time.
Yeah.
Not for content, not for nothing, because I go back and look. I go back and look because there's a lot to be learned.
So helpful. So what was that breakthrough for you in terms of like I'm just freezing? How did you go from freezing to not?
I think it was just like Madison essentially calling me out on that, and then understand, because one of the first things that she taught us was like patterns, because we were trying to figure out how to flip and invert our like structure sandwich and give Corn more opportunities to decompress before heading out for the walk. And when we started talking about patterns and like how he would pick up on them, it just dawned on me like, okay, I've allowed him to practice this pattern of freaking the hell out and me not doing anything. And again, like leaning on the training that I knew before of, yeah, he now thinks, great job, Corn. I did the thing and it got the dog to move away. And that's what he's learned, that I'm not going to step in and I'm not going to do anything in that situation. I'm not going to interrupt the behavior. And when we started doing those patterning games, I just saw how quickly he picked it up, and like how you just could see he was working and he was trying to put the pieces together. And then I could just see his body just relax. I was like, oh my God, that's crazy. Like, and then when we would go for the walk, like so checked in. Exactly what you were saying, Jerri. Oh, he was so checked in. He would potty right away, and then he'd be wanting to like engage with me so much more after we had done a little bit of work inside. Just after one time, I was like, oh God, okay, there's something. I was like, oh God, I just needed this like perspective. I needed like an outside perspective on what was happening, because when you're so close to it, you just think maybe if I just keep doing the thing more, or like
Yeah,
it'll
I
change,
should
the
double
dog will change.
down.
Yeah.
I
Well,
should double down on all my failures. Yeah,
yeah,
There
but
for
then
is
you
this
gotta
sure.
like
like hold it back.
inability to see a potential of a different way when all you're
Yes.
seeing is this repeated behavior and you're in a freeze state. Where could you possibly pull another reality from? If not somebody to come in and point it out and say there actually is a different way.
Yeah.
There actually is something you can do in that moment. Because I've felt that. It was a helpless state, right? If you're like, there's nothing I can do, he's just gonna react. And
Yeah.
there's nothing I can do to
Mhm.
reel him in and because he's a big boy. He's a strong boy, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And I just think that it was, again, just like having you be there to hold me accountable. And it was something that I would just be like, okay, I was like, you know what, I got to do this. And I got to not only prove it to you, but like to myself that, okay, we can definitely do this thing. Because you get stuck in this cycle of, okay, we do this thing. I can handle whatever the behavior is in that moment, because if I try something different, what if it doesn't work? And then now I've confused my dog. And I'm like, you know what? No, my dog is smart, and I am smart, and I am resilient, and so is he. So if I have to like do this thing that maybe is a little stressful in the moment to potentially get to a place where it's like we're having a relatively positive outcome, it's okay, let's just do it and let's like see if it like how it goes. Because there were so many times you would just ask me to do something and I'd be like, I don't know. But I just whatever. I have
Just
to do
try
this
it.
because it's the homework. So let's
Yeah.
just do
That's
it. And
honest
like,
though.
Yeah. I want to think about the different options that we started to create for corn because I think this is where people can get really stuck in that nothing different could possibly work here. Maybe if they try one thing and it doesn't match their dog. And one thing that we quickly realized with corn is that in a state of reaction, he was not at a 4, 5, or 6 out of 10, right? Dude was at 9, 9.5. He was up there, up there. So bringing him down, just down at all, we could not meet his 9 energy with a 2. We couldn't. Those things are incompatible. That was not fulfilling and giving the energy he was feeling in that moment a proper channel, right? I say it's like trying to siphon gas. No, we got to burn that. So play and starting to incorporate play in the moments of high intensity to then bring him down to do food patterns became a really powerful thing for corn. And I think this is not something that would work for and be compatible for all dogs, but I think more dogs than we probably try it with.
I would agree with that. I just helped
mm-hmm.
a dog recently, a little Yorkie, and she's still with me. She would be a dog that I would consider to be, there's a lot going on there genetically. That's not great for her. But that's what we did for her separation anxiety. We could not get past this certain point. And so we just used play for pre departure cues. And that eventually worked itself into her being able to take some food and do some other things. So I like when I hear that because you're right. It's not every dog, but there's
There's some.
some that are out there, and it would be
Uh-huh.
very helpful to incorporate that.
And think about, sure, get curious within breeds and breed groups, but also be willing to accept if your dog is an outlier. Because I'm working with a retriever right now who loves to tug. Oh my God. And not what you would expect. You would think, okay,
Yeah.
I'm going to do some fetch, do some retrieval. No, this is the perfect outlet. So I think that was really powerful. And that for you, Ruth, was a really big thing for you to
It
be
was
able to
huge.
play with corn. It made you just so much more, I think, physically engaged with him in that moment because it's a physical thing and he's a physical dude and you enjoy engaging with him physically. So that started to make the moments that used to be really negative for you, right? Him reacting was a horrible experience for you. Okay, now he might bark and he might lose his shit for a second, but then we go and tug it out. And that's fun for
Mm-hmm.
both of us. So that started to change how
Mm-hmm.
you felt about those moments. And what's funny, positive reinforcement works for all species.
Totally. Like we had not played outside. Corn is 6. We had not played outside for 4 years. That was crazy to
Oh, my
see.
heart.
I
Yeah,
know.
like thank you so much for just saying that right now in front of everyone because there are people that are struggling through that and they
Oh
feel
yeah.
like they're the only person that hasn't been able to do the things that they want with their dog outside, and it's very common.
Very
Oh yeah,
common.
like the first 2 years, Corn was very open to playing outside, but then we had so many of these like negative interact that like it starts to put him on edge, which we saw obviously, and then it was the classic like I'd present a toy and he's I gotta sniff, and like he would just like never want to engage with me in that way outside, because I also think that a lot of what we were doing before was like really trying to subdue that behavior and not give it an outlet. I was like, suppress, don't try to get elevated, don't try to become activated outside, just suppress that excitement as much as possible. But now if the opportunity presents itself, I'm like, and he'll like there are times where he won't take it, and then I'm like, okay, let's go and like sniff, let's go and do some like patterning games, let's go do that. But then he can like get into it, and it's, even if it's just for a second, I am so grateful for that second, because I'm like, okay, something has shifted, and like that's awesome, and we just build off of that each time. Because again, there was 4 years, nothing. So to be able to play with him outside is such a huge win that I did not think that the training would get us there. Like I didn't even think that was something that we would even touch on. So it's crazy. That was like an added bonus to everything.
And that's going to continue to, I think, expand, and then also continue to open you both up to more things, because it is such a powerful skill to have. And ultimately is really something that connects for Corn, right? Like some dogs using like scent-based stuff, super powerful. Some dogs using verbal communication and counting, crazy power. Corn, I noticed for me, it was physical movement and the play was like one of the biggest things.
Oh yeah, my man. He's a big man, and he's got lots of energy, and he doesn't, again, it's the environment that we're in. He doesn't really get a lot of opportunity to go hard in that sense, especially outside. He is overstimulated. I think that was a really big thing that really helped you guys, like seeing that and then like validating that Corn is baseline is anxious. Like he is an anxious dog, and he is overstimulated by the environment. And I think that really helped me see so much more of like his truth of what we talked about the first time, Jerri, of this might not be in like Toronto. This might just not be an environment that he will ever thrive in, but can he tolerate the environment? Can we have successful moments in the environment? Of course he can. I think that I've let go of this idea of who I want him to be as a dog. And I've really come into the acceptance of, okay, you know what? These are his limitations, but that doesn't mean that he lives a small life. Talking about how I was able to get him out of the city more, prioritizing that for the two of us has been so amazing for the relationship. It's that, again, like there are like gives and takes when you have a dog who has these like complex behaviors, but it's like choosing what the hard thing is that you're going to do. It's all hard. It's not all simple, but it can be hard, but it's okay. Choosing the thing that we're going to do. Okay. Yeah. It can be a pain to drive out of the city, but that time with him is like priceless.
Who is it that said, choose your hard? Because that's like a quote, right? It's going to be hard either way. You're either going to work hard and get what you want, or it's going to be hard because you're struggling through the day to day. So choose your hard.
Yeah, I think oh man, who have I heard this from? I feel like I hear this just like from a lot of like
a lot of self-help people say that.
Yeah,
too.
a lot of self-help.
Yeah.
That's the reality, is that like I myself am also in therapy, and I think about that a lot, how life is not easy and there's not like an easy way out for things. There can be, but maybe those decisions, there's a different kind of hard that comes with that. And I think that there are going to be like, Corn is not an easy dog. There are going to be days where it's fucking hard, but like the reality is that there are going to be things that I choose that are difficult that someone else might not choose. And I'm like, okay, well, this is what I choose for him, because I know that in the bigger picture of things, we benefit so much. It's been amazing. Like it takes effort to have to fulfill him. And I think that was a little bit of the missing piece. He's sick. We definitely got into a routine of being like, this is acceptable. This is the kind of behavior that we're willing to accept, and like having a lot of limitations for him. And now we're like, anything is possible, honestly.
I love that. I love that.
So we have a couple of minutes left. So I guess I would want to, I don't know, maybe just ask Ruth what's next, because things are shifting for you in your life, in your dog related life particularly?
Yes, Corn. Oh my goodness. So we're going to a cottage. We're going to our family's cottage next weekend, and he's going to be like, he's been up there for the last 6 years, and every year has gotten better. So I'm very interested to see how, with this new training and like this new mindset, how much just the different things that might come up. Like last year, he swam for the first time. Oh God, yeah, he's not a swimmer. He's not a swimmer. God, he
Not a strong
panicked.
swimmer.
No, he panicked. As soon as he dropped off the sandbank, he was like just gasping for it. And I was like, this dog needs a life jacket, unfortunately.
Not a water dog.
Not a water dog. But he's gotten a lot better again with the, we used to think, oh, bringing him up to the country, he's going to be so good. He's going to be so decompressed. No, he hears every noise. He hears every little thing. He gets like very alerty. But over the years, he's done so much better at being able to handle that. And again, like he has more, like we are so like willing to let him explore and have a lot more confidence out there. My sister-in-law is going to be bringing her dog. And so they've never really been in the same space together. So that's going to be quite interesting to navigate. My partner's family, they have two like small dogs, and Corn and them get along like great. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see because it's 4 dogs at the cottage. So it'll be a fun little time. And then Corn and I are actually off to an in-person 3-day workshop with Pack Life LA. Sam is coming to Canada, and yeah, I'm pretty like excited because I've never taken Corn to like I guess like this kind of workshop. We've done some like meetups and like pack walks and things, but I'm just very interested in seeing him in this environment.
What do you mean? What is that environment?
I guess just like an environment where like all the dogs are also working. They're also working on things, and it feels a little bit more structured. The things that we've been to have been not the trainer hasn't been able to like touch base with us in those moments. It's more like a pack walk, and we meet up for a pack walk and we're just walking. Yeah. Yes. And so I'm very interested to just see now what Corn is like. Again, he also is just going to be he does get the opportunity to meet new dogs, but I'm able to structure it in a way where there's lots of control. So I'm very interested also to see myself in that environment. There's going to be a lot of other dogs there who, again, are also working on things, but we're all going to be at like different levels. And so I'm just excited for him and I to go through that. And I honestly don't think I would have done it or like even thought about doing it if we didn't train together, because I was like, you know what, like this might be a great opportunity to use what I've learned and just take the momentum like of this confidence into an environment that really makes me nervous. I think Corn's gonna have a great time, but it makes me nervous because it's like,
yeah, because you're going into an environment very different than what we taught you. You're very different, and I don't have any issue. I think people should go and see trainers that they want and learn things that they want, and you can take what you like and leave the rest. But it will be different. It will be different because she trains very differently than we do. But I think that it's good that you have the confidence to go and to try, and that's a big deal because that type of stuff will lead you to want to do. You got out there and you did something, and you didn't die, and so that type of stuff makes us be able to reach for other things. And it's good to have, even if it's not the way I train, I always encourage people to watch other people, see what you like, see what would work for you. You don't have to take everything. You don't have to take everything I do or everything Mattison does. It's all about finding what works for you and your dog. Yeah.
Totally.
And I would just ask to stay as in touch with yourself and your dog as you can that day, because there's going to be a lot of other energies around you, and it's going to be harder to stay in touch with that. So check in with yourself often.
Yeah, I think that it's a practice for me as well. Like I am so open to learning from so many different people, and exactly what you said, Jerri, just like taking what I find like connects with me and connects with my dog, and like it's just and also shedding that like idea of having any kind of like shame around my dog's behavior. Like his behavior is not a reflection of like my worth. So
correct.
We need to get out and do things and just let that go.
Unpacked was created by Jerri Sheriff and Mattison Simpson.
If you are enjoying this podcast, follow or subscribe to be sure you don't miss an episode, and leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform.
Looking for more honest and relatable dog content? Check out our sister podcast, Straight Up Dog Talk. See you next time.